Welcome to another episode of the Franchise Academy. My name is Tom Scarda. I'm a franchise advisor and coach by day and sometimes a podcaster by night. I'm excited to bring you the show today because I have my franchise mentor literally with me today. If you have not listened to the show before, please go to thefranchiseacademy.com. Check out my book, Franchise Savvy. Also check out my online class, the A to Z's on how to buy a franchise, everything you need to know without talking to me. Today, I have Michael Haith with me. Michael Haith and I met 23 years ago when I bought my first franchise called Maui Wowie Hawaiian. Back then, I think it was Maui Wowie Smoothies to be exact. Then it became Maui Wowie Smoothies and Coffee. And we got together. I bought the franchise early on. It was late 2000. Opened up my first unit in the Jacob Javits Convention Center. Michael came and helped us launch it that particular week. And I am just excited and proud and honored to have Michael on the podcast today. And he is now the owner and the president of Teriyaki Madness, which we're going to learn a lot about on this podcast. Michael, welcome to the Franchise Academy.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's good to see you again.
Yeah, this is so awesome. I remember looking at the franchise, I was introduced through a franchise consultant by the name of Carol Mercurio, if you remember. Carol ushered me into Maui Wowie, and we opened up the Javits Center, and were able to expand. You were able to do so much with that company, hundreds of units. I think I was like the 25th franchisee back then, but incredible story. You sold it, I think, 3 years ago.
I think it's already been 7.
Has it been? Wow. Time flies, man. Well, that's COVID time. Everything is compressed. But now you're into Teriyaki Madness. Tell us about that concept, please.
Teriyaki Madness is Seattle teriyaki, which is ubiquitous. It's on every corner in Seattle. It's fresh vegetables, rice, chicken grill on an open grill, marinated, healthier and delicious. Found the concept, about 12 years ago in Las Vegas. Wow, 12 years ago. 7 shops, and the founders wanted to work with me, who had a little experience, and looked at the business model, looked at their income statements, tried the food, and signed on as an investor and sitting on the board. And a little while later, ended up buying the company. So here we are with 130 shops throughout North America, and growing fast.
That's awesome. And so it's, is it a regular store, or is it a more compact type of setup?
Yeah, it's a compact setup. It's about 1,400 to 1,600 square feet in strip malls. We like having that brick and mortar presence, but we're still 85% outside the 4 walls, be it catering, pickup, or third-party delivery. Gosh, it's a simpler business model, and we like having that physical footprint because we're kind of an emerging brand. Even at 130 shops, we don't have 35,000 like Subway or something. So people are discovering us, and we like to be there meeting and greeting.
Yeah, there's no question about the great tasting food. I remember years ago when we were doing Maui Wowie Smoothies, you talked about, you probably don't even remember this now, but I do. The fact that people like to have something simple where they could kind of walk and eat, or, something quick. And that's what the bowl concept is all about, right?
Yeah, it's about that. And it's being able to customize what you want. I think most people know Chipotle, and the strength of Chipotle is you come through and you pick what you want. That's the bowl concept. If you don't want rice, if you just want proteins and veggies, you want extra spicy, it's whatever you want. I think the flexibility of the food is one of its greatest strengths.
Yeah, there's no question about it. I like the fact that it is a simple concept, but for people listening, what do you mean by that, as opposed to a full restaurateur? Um,
Well, you know what? It's simple. It's simple. Our kind of watchwords are: we want it to be simple, we want it to be understandable, we want it to be delicious, we want it to be healthy and have those healthy options. But we also want every meal to be each individual's meal. We put fresh vegetables in. If you don't like broccoli, you don't have to have broccoli. If you don't like cabbage, you don't have to have cabbage. But, we're a lot of fresh food. We make everything custom ordered for people. And that's kind of our point of differentiation. That and the delicious food. There's not a whole lot of branded teriyaki Asian food out there.
right. So true. When you think about, recruiting new franchise owners, who makes a good franchise owner for Teriyaki Madness?
Well, I think this goes for all franchises, somebody who's coachable. If you're going to cut a big check to be part of a franchise system and they're going to accept you in, you need to be coachable. You need to learn. You have to have two ears and one mouth. The folks who succeed really follow the operations manuals that have been developed over a couple of decades. They listen to the other franchisees, of which, we've got 170 of them. Everybody wants to help, but if you think you know better and you want to do something yourself, you should go do something yourself. Being a franchisee is taking a business model that's proven out with a whole lot of support in a good franchise system. And, you asked me who makes a good franchisee. It's somebody who's a good franchisee, who wants to be a good franchisee.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
you throw all that and you throw in a good heavy dose of elbow grease and off you go.
Yeah. Yeah. And the elbow grease is a great thing to mention, because just because you buy a franchise doesn't mean you're going to be successful. It's like, just because you joined the gym does not mean that you're going to get in shape. You actually have to show up.
So that's the problem.
That's the problem. I have found recently that you could outsource just about any project that you have, but I have not been able to find somebody to work out for me. So.
When you do, Kevin, call me.
Right, and we'll franchise it. That is great. So are people buying multiple units when they buy Teriyaki Madness, or is it just a single unit for most people?
Depends on their situation. We've got some folks who are coming to this country and they would like to buy a business. They want to start off small. We've got real estate developers who may own a strip mall and they want to own the brands that go in there. But for the most part, the people that come into Teriyaki Madness want to build a legacy. They want to build something bigger, and that involves multiple units.
Right.
One can certainly make a living off of one unit, but most of our folks have the American dream of building something that they can be proud of and that they can forward on to their family.
Yeah. You had mentioned new people coming into the country. Do you guys deal with kind of the EB-5 and the EB-2 visa people that come over?
We do. We do a lot of that.
You do?
Our mission statement is to provide opportunity for everyone, and being able to provide a business model that allows folks to be able to include their family if they'd like, or hire owners, managers if they'd like. There's a lot of flexibility within our concept.
And some of the larger concepts, like let's call it like an Applebee's restaurant, they're looking for people that have restaurant experience or restaurant ownership. Do you need that for teriyaki or no?
No, that's a great point for us, is because our mission statement is to provide opportunity. We really said we'd like to provide folks the opportunity to own their own business. I keep saying it's the American dream. Because we do that, we've got the obligation to provide superior training, superior support, help with real estate and construction, and a lot of things that people who have never been in business before, never mind the restaurant business, are, they're anxious about. We want to be there and we want to provide that support. So we've got a huge team here whose job it is to take inexperienced business owners and make them successful.
And that is the beauty of this particular franchise, because with you, at the helm, not to kind of blow smoke, but you've been the CEO and president of a franchise for, we'll call it a quarter century at this point, 25 years, maybe longer. Maybe I don't know that. Maybe it's longer than that, right?
Well, I appreciate you making me seem so old, but I've been a franchisee, I've been a consultant, I've been a vendor, but for the most part, I really like being a franchisor and helping people go into business for themselves.
And why is that?
It's satisfying. I think the most successful business owners aren't the ones who do it for the money. They do it to build something. They focus on helping to nurture teams. They really like solving problems. They like building something. I've said it before, something that they can be proud of. And if I can help provide that opportunity to them, not blowing smoke, that's very satisfying.
Right. It's great. It is great. It's giving people kind of a hand up, as opposed to, a handout, which happens sometimes. And some people need that too, sometimes. But this is enabling people to follow the dream. And that's the whole reason I did it back in the day. I was buying something, and the Maui Wowie smoothie concept was great. Well, but the point I was trying to make by aging you is that you made the mistakes already as a franchisor. You've done things, you've learned a lot of things. Now you have this particular concept totally dialed in. And I don't think that a layman who's looking at franchising for the first time could really understand what that means. When you say, "Oh, we got great support," okay, good. Yeah, I'm looking for that. But what does that mean? Like, when you say great support for you, from your perspective, what is that?
Well, I think that's the role of a franchisor, and one that can be provided by any franchise system that's been around for a while and has, call it 50 to 100 units minimum. It's being able to help support those franchisees who want to learn the business, who want to use a business model that has proven itself. More than anything, in a good franchise system, there's a good cultural match. And the community wants to support those people who come in to success. I'm always fond of saying that the biggest asset in any franchise system is the other franchisees.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're there to help, and they want you to be successful because it helps them be successful. The other thing that most people don't realize about a franchise is you've got some buying power. We put in place technology and apps and all kinds of stuff that one simply cannot afford on their own.
Yep.
The other piece is we've made the mistakes. I think you referred to this with me being super old, is that I've got a whole lot of wisdom built up, as does the team and the franchisees in the system, of the mistakes that we've made. And those are expensive mistakes. So over 20 years, there's now a business model that won't make those mistakes again. When one does things on their own, it's inevitable that they make those mistakes, and those are expensive.
No question about it. A lot more than a franchise fee is what those mistakes were.
Oh, you know what? There's no doubt about that. Not just in money, but in time lost. And it's tough to build a business, a franchise business. It's really tough to build an independent business with little experience.
Yep. And I like the kind of the buying power and the clout, because a story from back in the day is, and you probably don't remember this, not because you're old, but because it was just a blip on the radar for you. But I remember when I first got into the franchise, I said, I'm going to go out and solicit the Jacob Javits Convention Center to get a spot there. And you said, "Oh, that's great. Do that, but don't be disappointed, because you are hunting elephants." And we ended up getting that contract basically on the spot. But later on, and I'll say 4 years ago, I went to dinner with Greg Fainer, the guy who was the food and beverage manager who gave us the contract there. And he said to me, the reason I let you in the building was because you were a franchise. If you were just Tom Smoothies, you weren't just walking in the door to Jacob Javits Convention Center by any means. So just that alone is just a lot of clout.
I hear it all the time when we ask a candidate why they're looking at a franchise, and they say, we're really buying a brand. Well, the brand has a lot of weight, but the guy who you met with, he understands that there's also all of the processes and systems. So you know how to run a professional business.
Right. And that comes with, I often say when you get into a franchise and it's your first franchise, and for me, this was true, it was like a hands-on MBA. I was originally operating out of a shoebox. I didn't even know what KPI meant, at the very beginning. I learned that through some great folks that you had on the staff. A lot of people helped. A lot of people we're still friends with. They're still in franchising. They may be in different companies now, but they're still around. Great people. But I remember even learning delegation from you. And I share the story all the time where I'm in the Javits Center, and it's Manhattan. I'm on Long Island. It's only 24 miles, but the drive there will take an hour and a half at least. And so I was going back and forth on the train, and we would have, the smoothie kiosk. It was a tiki hut on wheels, and we had these washcloths that we would put out because that smoothie stuff was, splashing all over the place. And we had our aprons and all that kind of stuff, and I would bring that stuff home, and I would wash it, and I would bring it back the next day, and all of that. And one day you called me and you said, "So how's it going?" I said, "It's going great. We're just freaking killing it." And you said, "So you're still traveling into Manhattan?" And I said, "Yeah." And you said, "Why?" And I said, "Who's going to wash the washcloths?" And you were like, "What the F are you talking about?" So it was like, "You could probably get somebody to do that." And I'm like, "All right, yeah." And we did. And then after that, and and then we branched out into Jones Beach Theater on Long Island and Nassau Coliseum. I had managers for each of the locations, and I was feeling guilty because I had nothing to do. I was just running the business from a spare office in my house.
That's the target. That's the goal, isn't it?
And that's the goal. And that's what you can get to with a Teriyaki Madness, because what we had at Maui Wowie was more of what I would call a special events business. So we weren't open every day. But in Teriyaki Madness, you're in a storefront, and it's a real legit business that people are going to love, and they're going to come back, and you have a repeat element because it's that great. The food is great. I've had it.
Well, thank you for that little commercial.
Yeah, it is, and I'm trying not to be a commercial here, but I am excited about the concept. But
there's a reason why I bought it. Is I love the food. I love the fact that it's something healthier that my kids loved before I bought in. My family loved it. They still eat it. I've got a couple of kids around the country, and they always call in and talk about their experiences. It's, you have to love the business. You have to love the aspects of the business. And if you don't like the food, you shouldn't be doing it. It's something that you're around all day long.
Right.
But you also have to love people. We talk about the product a lot, but it's about the service. It's about the employees. It's about the customers. And you have to like that transactional type of business to be in a Teriyaki Madness or kind of any like business. There's good customers and there's bad customers, but when you have people talking about it and you can have some pride in what you're doing, that's a huge deal.
Yeah, it really is. And it was, it's, first of all, I missed that with the customer interaction, being at the counter at Maui Wowie. But it was to the point where, people would come, even at the concerts that we were doing. They would come to a concert during the summer. They knew we were going to be there, and they would bring their own, I remember specifically, we always put an umbrella in the drink. When we got really busy, we kind of skipped the umbrellas, which we weren't supposed to, but we did. And people would say, "Oh man, I don't get an umbrella. I got an umbrella last time." And so people remembered. And back then, the thing that you guys have going for you now, which I didn't have, was social media, the marketing, and all the stuff that you guys have behind the systems now. And not to mention, the mobile credit card machines. We didn't even have that back in 2000. So you could do a lot of good stuff with that.
We barely
Um,
had cell phones.
we barely had cell phones. They were kind of new. And now look, it's amazing. If you if there's somebody listening and they're thinking about buying a franchise, they don't know exactly what, maybe it's Teriyaki Madness, maybe it's something else. They just don't know. What advice would you give to somebody that's kind of in that conundrum? Like, I hate my job, I got to do something different, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think we've kind of touched on the points that are important. There's got to be a good cultural match. It's not just the business. It's not just the numbers. I think the folks that are the happiest are ones who see the world the same way as their franchisor or the rest of the community. I think it's very important to reach out to other franchisees. I think it's very important to meet other business owners. Break bread with the team. Make sure that you're going to get married here for 10 years minimum on most franchises. For us, that's everything. Is if you don't match the culture of our community, there's going to be friction. The second thing is you got to work. For people who think, okay, I'm buying a business so I can go play golf and tennis every day, that's just, you're not going to be happy. Yes, that can come. But after investing probably a year or two of your life into getting to that position, minimal.
Right.
The third one is, I think there's some misconceptions about franchising, is that just because you buy a franchise, you're going to be successful. And I like your analogy there where, no one's going to work out for you. You can't join a gym and it just happens. You got to work at it just like any other business. And you have to be ready to work harder than you've ever worked before. The good news is you're working for yourself. And the good news is that if you're passionate about it and you really love what you're doing, and that may not be teriyaki, it may be building a team and giving people opportunity. It may be creating relationships and creating friends. That's great. But you have to be passionate about some aspect of the business in order to be successful.
Yeah. No, there's no question about it. And it's not, one thing I like to make clear about the passion thing is that it's not, I love golf, so I want to buy a golf franchise, because that could be a mistake. It's more about the role of the franchise owner. So you have to discover what that is, because that's what you're going to be doing, whatever that role is. And it's different for every franchise. So, sometimes you got to be in that, by contract, you're in the store 40 hours a week. And for other, franchises, you might only be responsible for a few hours a week, whatever it is. So you have to be passionate about the role, like you're saying. Maybe you're a relationship builder or whatever it might be. So that is awesome. And you started to go down this road, but I wanted to kind of get you to finish this up about any other myth about franchising that you would bust, or about Teriyaki Madness, if that was the case.
Well, I think a myth that all franchisors are created equal. There's so many different angles and so many different cultures and so much differences in experience that one needs to be very careful that the franchise is for them. And that's, I think that's a big myth, is that just because one franchisor is maybe not as transparent as another, or others operate on some kind of process or system, you really need to dig in. Sure, we want you to be excited about it, but we're going to make sure that you come in with your eyes wide open, and we're going to be as transparent as possible. Make sure that you talk to the franchisees, make sure that you do your due diligence. You don't need to take a whole lot of time doing it. Just make a decision, right? My best saying is make the right decision or make the decision right.
Yep. That's the way to say it.
Make that decision, and most of the time you're going to be making it right.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of the work, and that's a lot of the satisfaction of building something.
Right. And there's so many great, exit strategies, or you could keep it and let it pay you dividends into the future, whatever you want, but it's yours. You're building it. I think another misconception is that, you're going to tell them as a franchisor when they could sneeze and when they could go to the bathroom. And it's not like that at all.
It's
You are
not like
totally
that at
free,
all.
you know?
Well, our job is to protect the brand, and for us to protect your investment, we need to make sure that everybody is providing a great experience.
Yep.
And we're pretty dead set on that. Now, how you do it, that's kind of sort of your business.
Right. Yeah. And I love that. And then the last thing I want to say about not all franchises being equal, a lot of people don't realize that really any business could be a franchise. You just need to go through the process of getting the franchise disclosure document done. Just because somebody is selling you a franchise doesn't mean that it's a good business or it makes money or there's support. So to your statement before, you got to do that due diligence. Call franchise owners and ask a lot of questions, submerge yourself before you spend any money. And we allow you to do that. I believe it's the most transparent investment that you could make in the world, as far as I know, in the world.
It's true, because the FTC has created a lot of transparency and a lot of visibility into the business. You just shouldn't be shy, because it's not just your money. You're making a life decision here. It doesn't have to be forever, because especially in a franchise, there's a lot of exits. There's folks who want to buy your business. But you know what? It's don't do it quickly, because it's a big decision.
Yep. Right. Do it quickly, but don't do it quickly.
Right. You don't have to draw it out.
Right. Do your due diligence. It should take about 8 weeks. That's about it.
At the most. And you know what? You're going to know. You're going to know when that's the cultural piece, is when you feel good about it, that's when it's right.
It's like when you walk into the home that you own, you get that feeling, like, yeah, this feels right. You can't explain why, but you'll get sort of that same feeling when you understand the culture of the franchise. And that's when you know you got the right franchise.
Exactly right.
Cool. Michael, I want to thank you for your time. This is just, again, an honor to have you on the Franchise Academy here. This is so cool. And we'll talk more, and maybe we'll run into each other at a franchise conference somewhere in America.
That's good hanging out with you again. It was my pleasure.
Yeah, absolutely. My pleasure too. And we'll talk soon.